Warning, this disclaimer at the beginning of the video is to understand that this is a review critiquing a video, and not a video intending to attack the maker of the video. Please refer to this disclaimer and refrain from overreacting and attacking Nostalgia Critic over a review from 13 years ago, as I am not in the mood to have to take responsibility over someone getting dicky at Nostalgia Critic just because of one video. Thank you. Hello, I'm Harrison of Colorado, and I live in Colorado so that you don't have to. Yeah, that's the best thing I could think of. But anyways, let's talk about Thomas the Tank Engine and Nostalgia Critic. First off, Thomas. If you are a rail fan, especially a British rail fan, Thomas the Tank Engine is immediately recognizable. Trying to find a rail fan who hasn't heard of Thomas is difficult, if not impossible. I don't think Thomas needs an introduction, but in case you somehow don't know, it was a show based on the Railway series started by Wilbur Vere Awdry, or the Rev W. Awdry, that was about anthropomorphic trains. In this case, they weren't anthropomorphic in the sense that they were machines but could still go by themselves and move around weirdly, nor were they anthropomorphic in the sense that they looked a bit like humans, but were still, say, animals, nor were they anthropomorphic in the sense that they were machines but looked like anime girls. That last one legit isn't a joke or exaggeration. It's called Kantai Collection, and they're Japanese battleships, and in the game US ships too, that look like anime girls. Mo is one hell of a drug! But anyways, these trains were anthropomorphic in the way that they had faces, but still needed humans to operate them, needed to follow real railway practices, and they needed actual coal, water, and in the diesel's cases, fuel to run and carry things. The Railway series was later adapted into the Thomas the Tank Engine show in 1984, directed by Britt Allcroft. Then by the 1990s, during Thomas's popularity in all of its markets, Britt Allcroft wanted to develop a movie with Thomas in it. This would be difficult to do, but not impossible. Now, how do we put this movie together, and what do we do with it? Oh, I know! Let's make the main characters be random humans we knew nothing about, give Thomas so little screen time that he's basically an NPC, show this shining time thing that only our American audiences know about, and most importantly, let's break the entire purpose and meaning of Thomas and the Railway series by giving this movie magic. What could go wrong? So said Britt Allcroft, and the movie bombed. In case you haven't figured it out, Thomas and the Magic Railroad alienated many fans, confused many fans, especially because of the complicated plot, and it was so badly received that another train-related film released around the same time as Thomas and the Magic Railroad, 587, The Great Train Robbery, which includes Nickel Plate Road 587, was received better than Magic Railroad on IMDb. That's saying something, isn't it? And those who hate Thomas and the Magic Railroad the most have given this movie the name of Thomas and the Tragic Fail Road, which is a super weird way of saying Thomas and the Penn Central. I could keep going, but I am not here to review this movie. I want to talk about someone else's review of Thomas and the Magic Railroad. That being... I don't think Nostalgia Critic, aka Doug Walker, aka Channel Awesome, needs an introduction. He's been on the internet for basically forever at this point, and he's still making videos even today. He has reviewed movies, TV shows, has a December-only series called Disney-cember, and is well known for the classic, "Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic, and I remember it so that you don't have to" line. Okay, play an actual one from him, because I'm not good at doing the impression.
Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic. I remember it so you don't have to.
Actually, play a better one.
Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic. I remember it so you don't have to.
Yeah, there we go. Anyways, in 2012, Critic uploaded his Thomas and the Magic Railroad review, but because of copyright claims, re-uploaded it in 2017. Is it a good review of a bad film? Not really. Now, yes, Thomas and the Magic Railroad isn't good, but Nostalgia Critic's review is not much better. Nostalgia Critic's review of Thomas and the Magic Railroad has a lot of misunderstanding about the original Thomas the Tank Engine show, gets close to finding out a lot of the fundamental issues of the film, but not nearly, and basically throughout the video he's basically screaming out, "Tell me you have never watched Thomas the Tank Engine and or read the Railway series books without telling me you have never watched Thomas the Tank Engine and or read the Railway series books," before actually saying I have never watched Thomas the Tank Engine, let alone read the Railway series, but I'll get to that. But none of that is to say that this is a bad or terrible review. So with that out of the way, this is Nostalgia Critic's review of Thomas and the Magic Railroad. So we begin with Nostalgia Critic's classic line.
Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic. I remember it so you don't have to.
We then get a bit of a play on the Magic Railroad story. We then get introduced into the people playing in the film. We then get to Thomas, who is actually played by Eddie Glenn, but that doesn't matter for this video. And Critic immediately sees that as some kind of twisted joke.
Okay. Whose joke is this? Come on, where's the real summary? Come on, I mean, there is no way that Thomas the Tank Engine is in a Peter Fonda and Alec Baldwin movie. Oh, see? I'm right. Peter Fonda and Alec Baldwin are in a Thomas the Tank Engine movie? What?!
Okay, so Critic is a little surprised, but come on! We see A-list actors play in movies many see are quote-unquote made for kids all the time. It's not like Nostalgia Critic, a man who reviews movies that are quote-unquote made for kids, just completely dismissed the franchise the movie originates from as a completely brainless show, right? 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 Hello? Allo? Bonjour? Hey, is anyone listening to me?
Trust me, most of America was as shocked as you are. What the hell are these two big dramatic actors doing in something as brainless as Thomas the Tank Engine?
Don't overreact, don't overreact, don't overreact, don't overreact, don't overreact, do not overreact!
God, don't do that voice, it's so obnoxious!
Jokes aside, right off the bat, or the get-go, depending on which one you like to use, it's clear that Nostalgia Critic doesn't really understand why Thomas was popular in the first place, despite the fact that it had been on TV for quite a bit of time prior to 2012 when the review was made. And I can only really guess that Nostalgia Critic was making assumptions about Thomas while he was making the review. And this next line only solidifies that belief for me.
I mean, it's not that it's a kid's film. Hell, a Disney movie or a Pixar movie or something of substance would make more sense, but it's Thomas the Tank Engine!
And take a drink every time he says, "It's Thomas," the word that will probably make my mom go nuclear if I say it right now. Tank Engine!
The show PBS puts on when Clifford the dog is too intimidating.
Okay, it's possible that the benefit of the doubt could be put here, that this was during the hit/Sharon Miller era, and a lot of fans may have likely abandoned Thomas by that point, before coming back during Andrew Brenner, especially because it was CGI, and a lot of older fans likely didn't like that. By that point, many of those watching Thomas on the TV will have likely been kids, though not really me, since I kinda slowed down in watching Thomas on the TV, and was watching videos of trains on various steam railroads and the Santa Fe in its last year of operation. Thanks, Les.
But does it all come together?
Well, not really if you read the original books or...
It's Thomas the Tank! Let's take a look.
Meet Thomas. He's our #1 hero.
So immediately, you're hoping Mr. Rogers' trolley comes in and kicks the oiled asses out of these characters, but unfortunately, we're not so lucky.
I'm genuinely questioning if this guy hates, or at least hated, Thomas when this was made.
We do, however, see our first problem with this film.
That there's magic? That the main characters are suddenly humans and not the trains? What's the issue, oh nostalgia critic?
7, 8...
Who do we appreciate? Practicing your numbers, Gordon.
I'm counting how many seconds late you are.
The mouths don't move! And it's creepy! I mean, I understand on the show, because it looks like they have a budget that makes Gumby look like Studio Ghibli, but come on, you got Peter Fonda in this! You don't want Peter Fonda to think you're this goddamn lazy, do you?
The immediate issue is that the mouths don't move, and that makes it creepy and lazy too. Okay, in the original show, none of the characters' faces are moving because, well, they're using models. And carrying it over into the movie actually kept a bit of Thomas's identity it had at the time. Of course, those non-fans who yell out about it would get their wish in 2008 when the mouths started moving via CGI, but ugh! Honestly, you can have the mouths move and that can make something way creepier. But seriously, the mouths not moving is creepy? Have you ever seen Underground Nerd? Ah! Have you ever seen the transport? Ah! But honestly, do you think that making mouths move in a model production would make things much better?
Come on, I can do better. Watch! Say, Gordon, I was just wondering why we live in a town called Sodor. Is that a retirement home for Lord of the Ring villains? I'm just trying to put together how we procreate. I mean, do trains have sperm? Goodness gracious me.
I think I'm gonna...
And by the way, I think that you're going to help me and Thomas somewhere in this story.
Okay. Are you gonna fill us in on that at all? That's kind of a lot of pressure to throw on a little kid and then suddenly not go into any detail.
Critic actually does make a good point in this part. It's such a weird statement that the audience is suddenly somehow involved, even though they can't really do much. Actually, they can't do anything at all. And when it actually does happen, which we'll get to in a bit, it feels so undeserved and weird.
I've come back to find a lost steam engine. What? I'm gonna destroy her and dominate you!
Whoa! Keep it in the bedroom, Diesel! Well, I'm tired of being the bottom bitch. Just for once, I want to be in control of my train sperm!
We were just talking about that. Do trains have sperm?
Silence!
No comment on that.
Long ago, I made a mistake as lady's caretaker. An evil diesel found lady and threatened to destroy her. He chased her, used up all her coal, then he crashed her. Tried my best to fix her up, but I've never been able to.
Make up for the mistake I made.
Okay, Peter, I'm just gonna tell you right now, you're trying way too hard here. This isn't Yuli's gold, it's Thomas the Tank Engine!
It is a very important day.
Well, maybe not like this. Yes, if Peter Fonda is too miserable in this movie, then Alec Baldwin is far too happy.
Nah, I don't blame him. He was having a bit too much of a good time acting in the movie.
This place looks like the island of Sodor, but how would Burnett Stone travel there without gold dust?
I guess he travels back and forth between Shining Time and Sodor, and that's why people aren't pissing themselves with terror whenever he arrives. But what's so weird about it is that there's nothing really magical about Sodor except for the fact that the trains talk. Wouldn't it make more sense just to have it all take place in one world?
Critic here gets close, and I mean very close, to another one of the issues about this movie, and I think it would make much more sense if someone read the Railway series books. In the Railway series, although the island of Sodor itself is fictional, the mainland is basically the United Kingdom, and Audrey, who wrote the books, made sure it looked realistic. Sodor is basically in the real world in the Railway series, with the only oddity being the talking trains. Not to mention, the engines of Sodor were based on real locomotives. Thomas, an LBSCR E2, despite the fact that the E2s weren't good. Edward, a Furness Railway K2. Henry, the LMS Black 5s. Gordon, the LNER A1s. James, a modified LNYR Class 28. Percy, an Avonside 04 saddle tank, Toby, a J70, etc., 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 etc. There were also references to real places like London and the various termini for trains it has.
When I was young and green, he said, I remember going to London. Do you know the place? The station's called King's Cross. King's Cross? Snorted the engine. London's Euston. Everybody knows that. Rubbish, said Duck. London's Paddington. I know. I worked there. London's all wrong, answered Gordon sadly. They've changed it. It isn't King's Cross anymore. It's St. Pancras.
However, in the TV series, a lot of these references to real places are removed.
The people of England, he said, read about us in the books, but they do not think that we are real. So, he continued, I am taking my engines to England to show them.
It seems, continued the Fat Controller, that there are many girls and boys who would like to meet you. Therefore, we are all going to the big city far away.
And things like that make people believe that Love Thomas is just a fantasy world, even though it, for the most part, took place in the real world in the original source material. So, I will give Nostalgia Critic credit here, and that he does sorta understand that things should be more like the source material, where it's in the real world, even though he didn't really know about the source material from the looks of it.
Sparkle, sparkle, sparkle.
I know. You're thinking to yourself, how could any successful actor bring himself to star in a movie that requires him to say the line sparkle, sparkle, sparkle?
He was the US narrator of the show from 1999 to 2002. Simple as that.
Well, I think you underestimate the power of those words. I think Baldwin saw the possibilities of that line, the magic it possesses, and the ability to touch an entire generation. Don't act like these words haven't had a huge impact on your life! Hey! Sparkle, sparkle, sparkle!
Yeah, sparkle, sparkle, sparkle.
Whoa! Yeah! You're right, yeah!
What?
Meanwhile, we see Fonda continuing to mope. Get used to this, folks. There's a lot of it.
The man with the sparkles one day wanted his family returned, but until then, to guard her well, young Burnett.
But I didn't guard you well.
For God's sake, lighten up! It's Thomas the Tank Engine!
Now look, I am not defending Peter Fonda's performance in the majority of this film, because I think many also think that his performance was okay at best.
Peter Fonda in particular is just trying way too hard to be depressed.
Grandma loved her because I loved her. But she never took a ride on Lady. I couldn't fix her in time.
Like, it's an okay performance, but it's in the wrong movie.
But I don't think that anyone should be expecting the guy to be only smiling with energy like he's Raisa from Blue Archive in something like this. Though you could likely attribute it to the lines for the movie just not being that good.
Here we go, Fonda. This is the proper performance to give in this movie. Mara Wilson, clearly going through puberty, clearly at the age where she's embarrassed to be seen in this piece of crap, and clearly just doing this to pay off her future student loans.
Yeah, I kinda don't think that we should tell him that Mara Wilson actually liked being in Thomas and the Magic Railroad, despite the fact that it failed.
Diesel knows that the lost engine in the legend really exists.
What legend?
Of an engine whose magic makes her more powerful than Diesel will ever be. That's why he wants to find her.
By the way, you notice something seriously lacking in Thomas the Tank Engine? Yeah, Thomas the Tank Engine! He's barely in this!
Thank you, and this is one of, if not the biggest reasons that this movie isn't good. Thomas is bizarrely a side character in this movie with his name in it. Even other films like Polar Express and 587 The Great Train Robbery had more screen time of the actual Polar Express and Nickel Plate Road 587 respectively. And something like this is like if the SpongeBob SquarePants movie had just 10 minutes of SpongeBob in it, or if My Little Pony the movie had 11 minutes of the actual ponies and made 6 in it. Is that it? Nobody's gonna kill me or anything? Okay, let's move. Oh, mother!
We've been working on the railroad every Amtrak day. Make it travel nice and easy all across the USA.
Thomas not being in Thomas and the Magic Railroad is like if SpongeBob wasn't even the main character in the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. It's like if the movie set up either one of the other characters, like Squidward, Patrick, Mr. Krabs, or one of the many side characters to be the main in the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, and SpongeBob is only in it for like 11 or 10 minutes, with 2 or 3 minutes at the end for like a final boss battle or something. As for My Little Pony the movie, if things in that movie were on Thomas and the Magic Railroad levels, then it would be if all the ponies and or the main 6 were in about 11 minutes in the film, and the dragons, changelings, griffins, or even the hippogriffs and or storm characters were the central focus of the movie, and it just so happens that the ponies are in it. And before anyone asks about it, I have seen MLP before. I think it's a good show, but I would probably hear someone say that they hate MLP, and I will probably go another 5 or so years without it bothering me. Is it alright? Is it okay for me to say that I think MLP is good even though I don't have strong feelings for it? Or are a bunch of people gonna revolt and harass me endlessly for the next year or so just for saying that? Sorry that I ruined your 2025 because you don't have lives, I guess. But anyways, we are going way off track with this, so let's get back on track. Puns intended.
He shows up, smiles, and then we cut to either overacting, underacting, or good God, it's Thomas the Tank Engine acting! Oh well, maybe Baldwin can bring some balance back to this flick.
What is that?
That's right, it's sugar, Diesel. And if I throw this in your tank, it'll seize you up for good.
Wait, so sugar is the big kryptonite in this world? Well, why doesn't he just carry a packet of Splendor around all the time then? Or hell, if the magic dust is so magical, can't he just bring a normal-sized person into the world? There'll be a giant there!
I will also give Nostalgia Critic credit in this regard in the fact that so much of this is just not explained, such as the sugar part. Sure, putting something that isn't diesel fuel inside a diesel engine likely isn't good, but I don't think sugar can stop a diesel locomotive's engine is one of them. And I don't think anyone has decided to go Mythbusters style and actually try to see if this can happen in real life. And again, it's not explained how a human can suddenly become scale-sized, which we'll get into in a little bit. Another reason why critics and audiences actually dislike the movie is just because of how confusing it is, since quite a few of these things are not explained, on top of the lack of Thomas as well as the magic factor.
I don't suppose you know where track 3 is, do you? Is it that one? Well, why not?
What the hell could go wrong? Just getting on a train that could go anywhere that I was advised by a dog to board.
Again, another factor in this movie that Critic brings up that shows why it isn't good, in the fact that most of the human characters are just idiots for the most part, and many of them could probably fail to 10-year-olds when it comes to intelligence. And I personally think Unlucky Tug's video on the Magic Railroad says it best.
It's pretty funny when the most sensible, likable characters of this movie are the talking trains, all of whom the movie wants us to take as simpletons.
I don't know what eventually means, but it sounds very, very long.
Thomas may not know what eventually means, but he still has more brain cells than any of the humans in this movie.
But I guess in some movie producers' logic, being an idiot is not nearly as fun as being smart.
Plane, train, mountain, fountain. That might be something. I think I'll try the celery.
No, you need to try the antipsychotics, honey.
As a side note, I personally would like to know how Critic would have reacted had that alternate take with Mr. Conductor sniffing a jar of jam actually made it into the movie. Yes, that was actually a thing. I don't know why, and I'm too afraid to question why.
Beach. Beach, that's it! That's it!
Okay, I have no idea what that scene was about. I am now totally convinced that Alec Baldwin went nuts and they just shot a movie around it. Hell, maybe it was supposed to be about a grandfather, his granddaughter, and a train. But Baldwin just started shouting gold dust and sparkle, 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 and they had to make a kids movie out of it. This is sadly starting to make sense.
I know this was 2012 and well before the work print leak, but a lot of other people have given other assumptions as to why Britt wanted to make the movie. One assumption by the Unlucky Tug is that Britt wanted to make a movie that was about a grandpa and his granddaughter, but had to use the star power of Thomas to get funding, and some have agreed to that. Personally, I have a feeling that Britt wanted to do that, or she wanted to revive Shining Time, but had to use the star power of Thomas. But if the latter was the case, couldn't she have released Shining Time to audiences beyond North America beforehand and see how they reacted first?
Now he's talking to flowers.
Again, another thing that isn't explained because this movie makes as much sense as Final Fantasy 15. Wait, I never played any of the Final Fantasy games. How do I know this?
So Mara comes across Mr. Conductor's son named Junior.
Not to be that guy, but he's actually his cousin.
And in answer to your question, I have no idea why he's Scottish.
Michael E. Rogers was born in Whitburn in West Lothian, Scotland. Simple as that.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
Normally I'd say that's by accident, but it's Alec Baldwin. He knew what he was doing.
I personally thought that it was just because it was his longest finger.
4, 3, 2. Did you put all this here for me? But you must have known that I was coming. How kind of you.
Am I Alec Baldwin's delusion? Is this all Alec Baldwin's delusion? And for that matter, is this the so-called help the audience was supposed to give that was mentioned earlier? Come on, even Care Bears was more interactive than that!
Remember that part earlier that I talked about where the payoff was so undeserved and weird? Yeah, this was what I was talking about. And as much as I wouldn't want to say it, this one clip from a Pooh's Adventure person somehow makes that part to make more sense in their Pooh's Adventure video than the actual movie.
Mr. Conductor, are you alright?
Did you put all this here for me?
Yes, I did.
But you must have known that I was coming.
Don't you think it's weird when a guy from a fandom, even if it isn't very good, can make a scene make more sense in a parody-ish YouTube video than the actual movie?
Well, lady, what are we to do? It all seemed so much easier when Tasha and I were children.
It's Thomas the f***ing Tank Engine! Yeah, probably should wait for them to meet at this moment as opposed to earlier. Just would have saved time. So he shrinks her down to his size, and you'll never guess who they come across.
And you're not questioning why Lily being shrunk is not explained?
Thomas! Yeah, remember? He's in this damn thing too!
He already mentioned that Thomas is not in 90% of the movie, so I don't think I need to explain it again.
Hey, cuz. You're looking terrible.
Wait, are they father and son or cousins?
Cousins. Not nitpicking, just an explanation.
So they figure out they can't travel through worlds without gold dust, but somehow trains can still travel okay, but there's some kind of magic that makes Lady work, but they don't know what it is, but it might have something to do with this coal that they found in the tunnelway in between worlds, which will allow Lady to make gold dust as she rides, and when did this plot become the kids' version of Memento? Yeah, it gets really needlessly complicated, especially for a film that's meant to be so simple.
I'll also give credit to Nostalgia Critic just for the fact that the plotline in Thomas and the Magic Railroad just does not make much sense whatsoever.
Nope, he just sobered up and realized the movie he was in.
Yup, Critic hates Thomas.
She's part of the clue to the source of the gold dust!
Now I'll get you, Brunette Stone!
No, you won't, because the magic you refuse to believe in will get the better of you.
You know what? Go back to being depressed. I think I like it better that way.
Man, whatever happened to be careful what you wish for?
But they come across an unstable bridge where Diesel meets his end. Prepare to meet Amtrak in hell!
Who frequently as a child, spending parts in his childhood in Rhode Island, Washington, and Jacksonville, Florida, before moving to the Chicago, Illinois area in his teen years. Oh, that makes sense. Chicago is a major Amtrak terminus after all.
And so we've come to the happy end of our story. And it's time for all of us to go home. Just like Thomas.
Oh yeah! There was a Thomas in this movie, wasn't there? I almost forgot!
Again, already explained.
I mean, geez, between all the subplots, confusing stories, needless celebrities, and horrible editing, I can't remember what the hell I just witnessed.
Well, you can count on some fans to remember it so that you don't have to.
This movie is so bizarre in its existence. Why is it here? Why did it need to be made?
Money, duh. But Britt wanted to make a film featuring both Thomas the Tank Engine and Shining Time. It's a lot more complicated than that though, but obviously films based on TV series are often made to bring said TV series to a global audience, or at least a bigger audience.
Why did it have these people in it? Is it supposed to increase viewership of the show? Well, I've never seen the show and I don't think I ever will either.
Okay, I'll at least give Critic the pass for at least admitting that he doesn't know much about the show, despite how much he misunderstands Thomas's appeal and why it became so popular in the first place, other than kids' show.
It's an odd film with creepy trains that look soulless, and the less I can remember it, the better. I mean, I can't think of one good thing that this movie gave us.
Objection!
Your Honor, this statement is complete BS. Because this movie has brought at least one good thing, the Day Out with Thomas event. When Allcroft was visiting the Strasbourg Railroad to film the Rainbow Sun train scenes, the Strasbourg Railroad got the idea to rebuild a tank engine that it had into a Thomas the Tank Engine replica for Day Out with Thomas events. This has also created a bunch of other props of Thomas and other characters from Thomas and Friends for Day Out with Thomas events. And these events have brought many thousands of visitors and even more money too for rail museums in not just America but Canada, the UK, Japan, New Zealand, Australia, and more, allowing for rail museums across not just the country but the world to pay for equipment, restorations, and operations, as well as bring many people into caring for rail preservation and trains in general. And my question to you, Critic, is have you thought of a single good thing the movie brought?
Hey! Sparkle, sparkle, sparkle! Oh yeah, good point. I'm the nostalgia critic guy, remember? So
Sparkle,
you don't have
sparkle,
to...
sparkle!
Yeah! Sparkle, sparkle, sparkle!
Sparkle, sparkle, man. Sparkle, sparkle, sparkle. That's some shit.
That's what you say? I rest my case, Your Honor. Obviously, I understand that just because there's the nostalgia part in Nostalgia Critic, it doesn't mean he's either gonna like everything gold or hate everything gold. The video itself isn't a bad, let alone a terrible review of Thomas and the Magic Railroad, though I would say it's an okay review. Though, despite not having watched Thomas the Tank Engine prior to making the review, if not after, I kinda doubt he didn't have a curiosity about Thomas that didn't get the better of him. And he does get at least close to other fundamental issues like the magic part, as well as spot on the issue of Thomas barely being in the movie. But lines like something as brainless as Thomas the Tank Engine, and the many times he says, "It's Thomas the fracking tank engine," has sorta agitated me, and it was just a mental itch that I had wanted to scratch for a bit. I personally believe that this isn't one of Critic's best reviews, but he does do an okay job at reviewing the movie, and he doesn't claim to be an expert at Thomas either, unlike some other people. But I do believe that this video has some misunderstandings, hence the reason why this was made, as it was made to critique the video, not to attack the creator. Just please understand that before any of you make any assumptions. As for the movie itself, many people, whether they'd be fans of Thomas or not, dislike the film. And many fans of Thomas do agree that some of their fondness for Magic Railroad nowadays has mostly come from childhood nostalgia. The fortunate thing for some people is that Magic Railroad isn't canon. Are you Chancellor Qua- Canon with a C? There we go. But the damage it dealt was pretty much permanent. Magic Railroad was the stabilizer getting freed, with the first dive being the hit and Sharon Mill eras. The recovery and the stabilization was the Andrew Brenner era. Then the stabilizer breaking for good was the Bwaba era, and the plane crashing into the Pacific Ocean was the end of the series and the reboot. But I would be lying if I said I did not get any enjoyment out of Thomas and the Magic Railroad, despite how problematic it is. But I think it's also important to note why Thomas and the Magic Railroad is not very good, and how it's been a major turning point in Thomas the Tank Engine for all the wrong reasons, whether you personally like the movie or not. I miss you more than Britt Allcroft missed the mark when she made Thomas and the Magic Railroad. I miss you more than that movie missed the point, the Railway series. And that's an awful lot, girl. And now you've gone away. And all I'm trying to say is Magic Railroad sucks. And I miss you. like Peter Fonda needed acting school. He was very mid in that film. I need you like Thomas the Tank Engine need a bigger part. He's the main character after all, and now all I can think about is your smile in that shitty movie too. Cause Magic Railroad sucks, and I miss you. Why did Brittle Cross stay so far from the source material? I guess Magic Railroad sucks just a little bit more than I miss you. Still, rest in peace Peter Fonda and Britt Allcroft. And I'll play a moment of silence for both of them. Thank you. Now, if only I can improve my mood somehow after Hey, you wanna watch Rio Grande Standard Gauge Steam? Hell yeah, turn on the TV. I want to see those Rio Grande M64s and their 482s. Anyways, if you agree with me on this video or not, you're more than welcome to tell me so in the comments section. I'm Harrison of Colorado, and I live in Colorado so that you don't have to. Goodbye, and have a good day.